the client and install these two different packages, yarn add redux space react hyphen redux. These are the two different packages that we need to install. Yarn add react redux and redux. So let's install it. So it's installed successfully. So basically what we need to do is we need to create actions which like what action is going to perform, set user or get user, whatever it is. Then we're gonna need a reducers to perform those actions, and we need a store which is a globalized store. It's a globalized store which basically going to store all our details in that store. Then we need to dispatch the actions. So each and every actions needs to be dispatched. These actions will be dispatched and performed by the reducers, and data will be stored in your globalized store. So these are the steps that we need to create. All right, so let's revert the changes and let me close everything except this login. Okay, so now let me collapse everything and let me go back to the client, expand the source, and inside the source folder what I need to do is I need to create a new folder, and I'm going to name that folder as context. Inside this context I'm going to create two different folders. One is for actions and another one is for reducers. So right click your context and create one more folder called reducers. Okay, so inside this reducers I'm going to create index.js file to maintain all the reducers, because in this project we're not going to work with a single reducers, we're going to work with multiple reducers. So and inside this action I'm going to create new file, and that file is going to be user actions.js, and inside the reducers I'm going to create one more file, that is user reducer.js. Okay, let's go ahead and create the actions first. Basically actions, these is nothing but it's a function which is going to return a type. What kind of action type it's going to return? So I'm going to say export const. We're going to get the first we're going to set the user details. So set user details which equals, okay, and then return what type it's going to return. Basically the type is going to be set user, set underscore user, and we need to send the data also, then only we can update the data to our store. So usually that will be sent, that you will get that user data over here, and we will send the user data in an object called user as a user. Basically this user is our logged in this data. We're going to send this data over here, and we're going to pass this user in the object called user object to our reducer. So let me copy this and let me paste it one more time, and let me change this to get user details. We don't need to send anything, and we don't need to send this, and let me change this to get. This is set user action and this is get user action. Save the changes. Now let's go back to the user reducers. This is the place where we're going to create a reducer. So let's create a user reducer now. Const user reducer. Okay, const user reducer is equals, this is going to have, this is a function, this reducer is a function. Basically it's going to have three different parameters or two different parameters. One is your state. Initially the state value is going to be null, and then actions, what exact action that is going to perform. Initial the state value is going to be null, and then we will send the action. Along with the action we are sending the type, and we are sending the details as well as. All right, so here I'm going to use the switch case, and I'm going to send the action dot type. We're going to send this exact object over here. So this will going to perform according to that object. So if that case is equals to this get user, if the type is equals to get user, basically we need to return the state value, whatever the value which is in that, we're going to return it. Then if the case is equals to, set user, then we're going to return action dot user. Through the action, we're going to send this user object as well. We're going to send that user object over here, set user. Then by default, we're going to return the state, return state, save the changes. All right, and then I need to export this. So export default user reducer. So now we exported the user reducer and we have the user actions. Okay, so now what we need to do is, in a real-time, as I said, in a real-time project, you are not going to have a single reducer. You might have a multiple reducers. So we need to combine those reducers over here. So to combine those reducers, I'm going to import one package from Redux, All right, and that package name is going to be your what is the name of combined reducers. All right, so now what I need to do is, I'm going to create const my reducers. This is going to combine all the reducers which we are creating, and we can pass it to our store as a single value. So here I'm going to combine this reducer in the name as user, and this user reducer is going to be converted as our user object. It's imported, and this will be stored as a value as user. And then I need to export this, export default as my reducers itself, save the changes. Now let's get back to our index.js, because this is the place where we need to create the store and we need to wrap everything inside our store. So what we need to do is, to create a store, first we need to import on package. So import from Redux, we need to create a store. So create store. All right, so don't worry about this. It will showing that as a strikeout. So because in a latest version they changed this to configure store. Okay, so we're going to use the create store itself. All right, so let's use the create store itself. It will work perfectly as it's supposed to be, so you don't need to worry about it. Then we are going to import from React Redux. From the React Redux, we're going to get that provider object itself, because we need to provide the store, whatever we're going to create, we need to provide that store throughout our components. That's why we need this class. So then what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a store over here. So const my store is equals create store, which we have, create store, open the bracket, and inside here I'm going to supply my reducers. So we need to monitor each and every actions which is performed by here. So to do that, what we're going to do is, you need to search for like what we can say, search for React Redux dev tools. Search for React Redux dev tools, and there you can find this developer tool. So click that, and please go ahead and download this tool, Redux developer tools, so that you can see that developer tool over here, because I already installed it. So go ahead and download that, install it, and then if you scroll down to the next one, Redux tools. Okay, so click here. So that will takes you to your GitHub official page, and this is that software, that Chrome extension will looks like once it's successfully installed. So you need to go through their documentation, click the browser extension installation and configuration, click this, and if you scroll down for Chrome, that will provide you the Chrome web store where you can download that version, or you can download it manually. And if you scroll down a bit, you can find this line, window Redux extension tool sets or something. Copy this line. We need to provide this tool, this extension, along with our create store. So that's help that extension to monitor our Redux store, what are the action is performing, what action is triggered, and everything. So copy that line and paste it over here after your successful installation. Then what we need to do is, we need to use that provider to support, to provide that store throughout our app component. So wrap this app component inside here, and right after here I'm going to create a store, which is basically our my store. my store, save the changes. Once it's successfully saved, our entire web page, it's been refreshed, and now still it's not showing over there. Let me refresh it, and here we go. Now that tool is activated. If you click that tool, and now you can see by default our user state is being null. So for none of the action it's been triggered, so that's the reason it's showing that user it's null. So what we need to do is we need to get that user token from here, and we need to push that token over there. So that's what we're gonna do next.